Hello everyone, my name is Chase Chappell and welcome to Module 3. We're going to be covering today the campaign audience level, the testing budget, our open audience strategy, the interest data testing strategy, audience targeting settings, and all around just best practices for your Facebook ads. So let's get into this. First things first, we're going to go to the Ads Manager. You're going to make sure you're in your ad account. Yours might look something like this if you have no campaigns. But if you already have some campaigns, you might see them in here, but we're going to go ahead and start fresh and create some new ones. So what you're going to do is hit Create. And we're going to be optimizing for purchase conversions. If we're selling a product, that's what we want to optimize for. It doesn't really make any other sense other than to optimize for the main thing. You see, lots of people think they need to optimize for add to carts, initiate checkouts. Well, that doesn't really make any sense because if you want purchases, you should optimize for purchases. And the reason is because Facebook's algorithm knows exactly what behaviors people take. And there's a bunch of wishers and dreamers out there that love to add to cart and build that big wish list, but at the end of the day, they do not convert because they never like to convert because they're wishers and dreamers. We want the people who like to take action, like to spend their money, and buy things right away because those are the types of people who are going to ensure that our campaigns are scaling profitably, and those are the happiest customers because they make quick decisions and are always happy with pulling the trigger right away. So what we'll end up doing is clicking on conversions, and we'll go ahead and hit continue. This is just going to set up our campaign audience, and it's going to put out an ad. Right now I'm just going to delete this ad because we're going to come back to that later. And so that way we can focus on our campaign level. If you'd watched in the previous videos, we had covered the naming templates, which make all of this really easy for us. So we're just going to go ahead and activate that. It's automatically going to tell us that our CBO is off, which is our campaign budget optimization. We know it's off because it automatically named it for us. And you should have an open text field here because in that video we had added this. And we're going to name this our open audience. Or we can just name it open. And open is going to be our control audience. This is a strategy that allows you to test and see how the open audience compares to your other audience targeting. We're going to leave everything completely open. And the great thing about an open audience is it's going to perform over the long run. And we're looking to build a long-term business here and ensure that we're scaling over the long term, we're getting results over the long term. We're not really looking for a quick cheat code here or any quick hacks because they're really not out there, and if there are any, they don't last very long. So we want to focus on the actual strategies that are going to allow us to build a solid foundation for the long run. So keep in mind, this open audience is very likely not to perform in the early days. It probably won't perform the first week or the second week. But what you'll start to notice is over time, as your algorithm learns and starts to understand who your audience is, this is going to become one of your most powerful and best audiences in the long run. There's so many ad accounts that we looked at over the years, and the open audience seems to outperform almost all audiences if it's left on for a long amount of time. And that's because the algorithm eventually starts to learn so efficiently and effectively that it can automatically find the right buyers for your business. So that's where we're going to start today. So we're going to go ahead and leave it as open. We're going to have the campaign budget optimization. This can be on or off because this is actually going to be the only audience in here. So, we can go ahead and just flip this on, CBO on. And the first thing we want to look at for our open audience is what budget do we want to set it at. So if we go ahead and check this out, we have a graph here, a table. And in this table, I've gone ahead and broken down some recommendations for your testing budget. So if your monthly budget is under $1,000, I recommend each ad set audience is at $5 daily for testing. This is only during the testing phase, and the max number of ad sets if you have under $1,000 budget for the month is going to be 6 ad sets. So that's $5 per ad set. and that's essentially $30 per day. If you do the math on that across 30 or 31 days in the month, you're pretty much at $1,000 monthly. So that's the max number of ad sets you can have. And then if we look at 1,000 to 5,000 monthly budget, if you're in that range, then your testing budget would be $10 daily per ad set. And so the max number of ad sets you would have for testing is essentially 16 different ad sets or 16 audiences. Next, if you're in the 5,000 to 15,000 monthly budget range, then you can set your daily budget for testing for $15, which also gives you about 33 ad sets for testing, which is a great amount for you to be able to identify, a number of audiences that could be working and also identify the ones that don't. If you're above a 15,000 monthly budget, you likely already have an understanding of, what some of your audiences are converting. So this is going to essentially allow you to, set an ad set testing budget at $25. And if you have a client in this range, it's going to be easier for you to get through the testing phase just by go ahead and, setting a budget at $25 daily per ad set. And there is a max number of ad sets at this stage once you pass 15,000 monthly budget, but you're going to have to refer to the Facebook limit because it gives you insights on how many ad sets you can have as a max. So now that you know your budget, we're going to go ahead and type in that amount. So ours is going to be $10 for this specific account. And your campaign strategy here can be highest value or lowest cost. That essentially means that we're looking to get the most volume of results. In this case, for us, it's going to be purchases. Highest value essentially means that Facebook might optimize to get you, somebody who spends the most amount of money with you. And then lowest cost is Facebook's optimizing to get the highest number of, purchases at the lowest cost per result as possible. And so we'll stick with this strategy for now, and essentially no other options we want to change here, and we're going to go ahead and hit next. Once again, we've already had our template set up in the previous video, so we'll activate that. And since our audience is going to be open, we'll just go ahead and name it now. And if we scroll down, we want to go ahead and choose our pixel and the event we're optimizing for. In this case, we're optimizing for purchases. Now, yours might or might not have a website and shop option. If you don't have this option, just go ahead and select website. Essentially, the only difference is if you choose website and shop, essentially, Facebook's going to direct approximately 10% of your traffic to the shop on Facebook. If you've ever seen commerce checkout on Facebook or Instagram, that's where some of that traffic goes. Yours could be 10%, 50%, or you might already have an option where it says shop as an only placement. Now, if you haven't already, we will be covering a video later on about this, but if you would like to test that option, feel free to do so. As more people, get comfortable with spending and purchasing within the Facebook app rather than visiting people's websites, it is going to grow to be a great option. But for now, we'll just go ahead and select website, optimize for purchases, and then we're going to scroll down here. We're not going to do any dynamic creative. We're not going to do any offer. At this audience level, we're just going to keep going down, and no options we're going to change here. We're going to continue scrolling down, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to exclude a custom audience, and the custom audience we want to exclude is going to be purchase 180 day. And the reason is because we don't want to show our ads to people who've already purchased. We'll cover that in a later video on a retargeting audience, but for now, we want to exclude anybody who's already bought from us before because we want to reach new people. So we'll go ahead and name this a purchase 180 day audience, and we'll go ahead and choose that event purchase. And then essentially, we're going to hit create. And that purchase 180 day is now being excluded here. I also recommend if you have a customer list, you go ahead and upload that customer list of purchases. That way you can ensure that you're fully excluding those individual customers from this audience. The next thing is your location targeting. Depending on where you are in the world and what countries you want to target, go ahead and select those Individual countries, I recommend splitting them out, one country per audience for testing. That way you can truly understand which country is performing best. Or you can add in all the countries and then just look at the breakdown. For the age, we're going to leave the age range open here because, there's going to be individuals that are young that want this, and then there's also going to be individuals who are older that might be buying for a younger audience. It might be a family member, it might be a gift, it might be a brother, it might be a sibling, it might be a girlfriend or a boyfriend, it might be a spouse. There's so many reasons that people at all ages could, end up purchasing something for someone. And so you really want to keep your age range quite open. The only reason we would exclude an age is if you're 100% certain, with data, of course, to exclude a set age. For instance, if you're selling, something in the alcohol space and the laws are 21 plus, then you want to make sure that your age range is 21 plus. Now, if you are selling a product where you've never had somebody over the age of 65 ever purchase your product before, and you've looked at the data and you've confirmed that with a fact, then feel free to exclude that age range. If you don't have absolute certainty, then you're going to leave your age range open because that leaves the highest number of opportunities available for the system to learn and optimize for you. We're also going to leave the gender open. It doesn't matter if you're selling a ladies only product or a men's only product. There are people who buy gifts for their friends and family and spouses. So you want to make sure you leave that open. Otherwise, we're excluding other purchase opportunities. And since this is an open audience, we'll leave the detailed targeting expansion on, and we'll continue to scroll down here. We're going to leave automatic placements on because this is going to give us the highest number of placements available, which is going to guarantee that we have the highest chance of getting a conversion. Not only that, but we're going to be able to maximize our budget, we're going to get better reach, better CPMs, and we're going to be able to deliver to places that other advertisers can't, and that's going to give us a higher edge and opportunity against the competition. We'll continue to scroll down here, and we'll hit show more options. And for our attribution setting, we're going to go ahead and choose 7-day click or 1-day view. And the reason for this is post iOS 14, we're seeing better conversions tracked on the 7-day click or 1-day window when individuals in their ad accounts switch this setting over. And that's because, if somebody clicks on your ad and converts within that 7-day time frame, the chances of that being attributed are fairly high. And then also a 1-day view, means that if somebody viewed the ad and they see your URL in your actual ad, they might go to Google and type it in and purchase from Google. That's a pretty common way for people to make a purchase, is seeing an ad on Facebook and going straight to Google. A lot of people don't click on ads on Facebook. They just like to see what the product is and then do the Google search for it and make the buy that way. And because of that, if you have or 1-day view selected, the chances of you getting that conversion attributed to Facebook are there because that's where the original source of somebody finding your ad was, which is really great because that gives you a little bit more data to optimize from. So those are our audience settings on the open targeting. So you'll go ahead and move to the publish, and we'll go ahead and hit publish on that. And because we published it with no ads, we're totally fine because nothing's going to be active as of yet. We'll be covering the ads in a different video. Now for this portion of the video, we're going to be covering the interest data testing strategy. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit create. We're going to do another conversion campaign. And this time we're going to hit continue. We're going to delete that ad like last time. We're going to go back to our campaign level, activate the template. CBO is going to stay off this time. And the reason is during the testing phase, we want to have the CBO off because we want to give an equal number of opportunities and we want to keep the budget the same across each ad set. That's going to ensure that we get the right data and understand which audience is performing during this phase, and we have a little bit more control over the ad set level initially. Now, over the long run, we might end up switching to CBO depending on the optimizations we need to make. But for now, during testing phase, we want to test with the ad set budget optimization level. So we'll go ahead and name this audience campaign. and it's going to be interest testing. And then we'll go to the ad set, and we're going to stick to one audience per ad set. And the reason is we test one audience per ad set is because we want to accurately measure results from your Facebook audiences. And one audience per ad set during testing helps ensure your audiences will be evenly split and statistically comparable. While informal testing can lead to unproven audiences and unreliable data. You should use this strategy during testing to learn which new audience converts rather than testing informally, such as combining multiple audiences before you know what works, since this can lead to inefficient delivery and unreliable results. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and choose our pixel once again and choose our purchase conversion event, and we're going to activate our template. We'll continue to scroll down. We'll set our daily budget based off of the table provided. And we're going to exclude our purchase 180 day. We're then going to scroll down and hit edit under detailed targeting. And we're going to select one interest audience. And so depending on what you're selling, we're going to want to choose an audience that is going to make sense for that category. So for instance, we're selling skates. So we're going to hit suggestions and look at some of the options that it provides us. So people who are skating, let's go ahead and see what some of the options they recommended to us. Okay, well, people that skate usually are into retro styles because these skates that we're selling specifically are a little bit more retro. So we're going to choose retro style. You might notice the audience size. And audience sizes are fairly important here because we want to maintain an audience size over 800K if possible. And the reason is because interest audiences under 800,000 people are less scalable in the long term. And the exact thing we're trying to achieve here is long-term scalability, being able to continue to grow the business and scale results over the long term. And so targeting broadly 800K plus essentially means that you're allowing Facebook's ad delivery system to find the best opportunity to show your ad to people who will convert. These audiences are more scalable, and this approach can lead to Facebook finding more potential customers you never would have known existed. And this is great for long-term planning as well, since you'll be able to further scale with a broad audience than you would with a tiny audience. So this audience here is 63 million. That is quite a large audience, but that's totally fine because that means more opportunities for us over the long term. And so we're going to go ahead and leave detailed targeting expansion on, and a lot of people usually deselect this, but this is actually only going to help you because when you reach people beyond your detailed targeting selections, they're only going to really use this feature for you if it's likely to improve performance. So there's really not a negative impact here. If anything, it can only help you. And the reason is for detailed targeting being on is because it helps improve your campaign performance by allowing Facebook's system to reach a broader set of people than those you defined in the detailed targeting section. And you can use this option when you want Facebook to show your ad to additional people who will likely convert or get you more or cheaper results. Facebook only implements this expansion when the algorithm thinks it can get an additional result. So if the algorithm is only doing this to help you or get you an additional result or a cheaper result, that's a fairly great option. And during our testing, we see it work both ways, but over the long term, we do see detailed targeting expansion outperform non-selections more than anything. And Facebook's also already been testing this feature as a non-option, meaning people can't even deselect it anymore in some cases because Facebook so strongly because Facebook has gathered the data to prove that the detailed targeting expansion option already works. So you might not even have this feature, which is totally fine because that might mean they already expanded it for you. If not, we're going to go ahead and check that box. And so we're going to keep that one audience here. We're going to continue to scroll down, automatic placements on, conversions, and we're going to double check to make sure our attribution setting is set to that 7-day click or 1-day view. And now that we have one audience, we're able to move on to the next one. And so we're going to quickly duplicate this. We're going to scroll down, and we're going to find another audience. And the easiest way to do this is by selecting suggestions. And you want to find potentially more audiences here that make the most sense. Don't just click on any audience. Make sure you do some research on it to see if it's an audience that is truly related or similar. If it's not, then you want to find an audience that makes the most sense. So since in this case we're selling skates, we'll type in skates and see what pulls up. Roller skates, well, we are selling roller skates, so people who are interested in that, we'll go ahead and select that audience. And if we scroll up, our audience automatically changed. The only thing we need to do is just remove this copy here because we don't need that. Everything else is totally fine. So now we have our second audience. We're going to quickly duplicate, and we're going to continue to repeat this process. So looking for another audience, let's see, we have roller skating. That audience is likely to have mass overlap with roller skates. So, it might be worth testing, it might not be. That's why we're here to do this. Roller derby. So if you don't know what some of these audiences are, you might want to, do your research by copying it. I like to do a simple Google paste to see what it is. Okay, so for selling skates here, it looks like these people are all wearing skates. It's a sport. That must mean they're pretty, active doing this, and they must have a real passion here. So that is a viable audience for us to test. So we'll go ahead and test that audience, and we'll continue to move forward. Now, the number of ad sets you're going to use for testing is going to be based off of this. If you're under a 1,000 budget, you're going to have 6 ad sets. That includes your open. So essentially, you could have 5 ad sets in interest testing and 1 ad set for open testing. Then if you're in the 1,000 to 5,000 range, that essentially gives you 16. So I would recommend having the open audience, 10 interest, and then that gives you essentially 5 other ad sets to use for retargeting. So that's the range we're in here. So we're going to go ahead and create 10 interest audiences in that budget range. And once you do that, we're going to be moving to the next video to talk about lookalikes and retargeting.